stars at night are big and bright.
Where does that happen, Ray?
Deep in the heart of Texas, the prairie sky is wide and high.
What's that place now?
Deep in the heart of Texas, the sage in bloom is like perfume.
What's that place again, please?
Deep in the heart of Texas, reminds me of the one I love.
Now, what place are you talking about?
Deep in the heart of Texas.
From WBRN Radio in Boston and on the Boston Red Network, our episode, the Texas Primary 2018. We came in with Deep in the Heart of Texas, a classic from Bob Wills and the Playboys. This time around, we had the late, great Fats Domino out of New Orleans, and also the late Ray Charles singing their little renditions of it, edited version, obviously. But at the same time, we got it in there. We'll go to the great state of Texas. We'll cover it from El Paso, Los Angeles. From El Paso, the pass, been there. High in the mountains of Texas, how vast Texas is, to the rolling hills of Austin, Texas, and in between to Dallas and over to Fort Worth. With the Fort Worth newspaper there, where the CBS journalist Bob Schieffer used to toil. In fact, he was toiling there the day that President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. He was, in fact, in Fort Worth, the second city, the working class city, as opposed to what used to be looked at as the middle class city of Dallas, Texas. But firstly, we'll go to West Virginia. We have other news here. Governor Justice pulled off a deal there. He reached a deal in West Virginia. We'll reopen the schools. Many people did not know about the West Virginia teachers' strike. The schools in the state of West Virginia were closed, as LBJ would say, tighter than Dick's hatband. This is from the Charleston Gazette Mail, Pulitzer Prize-winning newspaper. We appreciate their coverage here. We also appreciate the press releases from Governor Justice. He did, in fact, get this done. It wasn't pretty, but I'll just read it here. This is 10 hours ago. Justice Jim Justice signed into law a 5% pay raise for public school teachers, school personnel, that appears to mark the end of a 9-day statewide strike. By 7 p.m., this would have been on yesterday, multiple counties, including Kansawada, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, announced they would be reopening on Wednesday. None said they would be closing, although Lafayette and Logan counties announced a 2-day delay in their openings. Before the meeting of a conference committee composed of senators and members of the House, Justice announced that all state workers, along with the teachers and service personnel, a category including bus drivers and cooks, state police would receive a 5% raise. The raise will take effect next fiscal year, which starts on the 1st of July, equaling, $2,020 for teachers. Both House and Legislature voted unanimously on Tuesday, except for Delegate Frank Dean R. Wood, who was absent to accept the conference report and passed the bill. We reached a deal, Governor Justice said on his Twitter feed. I stood rock solid on the 5% teachers raise and delivered. Not only this, but my staff and I made additional cuts, which will give state workers 5% as well. Now, that's the part we're not exactly happy about. The House Bill 4145 that he signed includes only the teachers in service workers in the West Virginia State Police. Other state workers are planned to receive raises via the budget bill. HB 4145 will replace a previously lower pay raise that the governor had already signed into law. Justice broke the news. A cadre of state leaders erupted in laughter when asked whether Justice was present for the 1 a.m. Tuesday negotiation that led to the compromise. They said his chief of staff was there. At the conference committee hearing, Craig Blair said the deal comes with a caveat. The Senate only agreed to fund the raise via very deep cuts to the budget, including a $20 million slash to general services and Medicaid. These cuts go beyond the already planned fiscal reductions to the Department of Commerce and a division of tourism, very big in West Virginia. The Republicans maintained throughout the negotiations that they were skeptical of Justice revenue estimates. We read that as part of put together. Anyway, the state budget office, Mike Cano, told the committee that the executive office had been receiving phone calls from concerned bond rating agencies such as Moody's Investment Service, Standard & Poor's, won't forget them. While Hall and McNo said the calls were regarding the strike and not new revenue fights, Fears said he is skeptical. The agencies were not concerned about the estimates. At 10 p.m., Justice appeared amidst a crowd of hundreds that for many strike days had been gathered in front of the Senate chambers. When he appeared, they were chanting for him to sign the legislation. He then hustled... Hush fell over the crowd, and people held their phones to record the governor. It's solid, it's rock solid, 5%. He said, cheers. He knows how to play a crowd. When Justice left the crowd, its members chanted 5-5 strong, as 55 counties had participated in the strike. Unlike the last strike, which they had 47 at the peak there. Then they sung John Denver's song, Take Me Home, Country Roads. Strikers have sung it earlier that morning. By 11 a.m., they were singing again, and they sung it again after the bill passed the Senate and just before Justice signed the bill. Shortly after, he announced a deal that had been reached. A number of Democratic lawmakers appeared before the crowd, urging the audience to show up for the November elections, in which 100 House members' seats were up for grabs. And let me finish this up so we can go on to Texas here. Our children had suffered enough, Justice said. He elated cheers, no doubt, from the people. And sure to goodness, they are with you. You can catch our kids up and then do everything you can. He asked by flexibility, he meant not having to make up class days, and that's always happened these strikes. He said pain and will decide what to do about that. They will no doubt be making those days up. Before the crowd dispersed, it chanted West Virginia first, Oklahoma next. Oklahoma school employees have been mulling a strike, according to news reports. Randy Van Gotten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers Union, said, which has state and counties arms here, said right-wing attacks on public education are occurring in West Virginia and other states as West Virginia proves the people will become more political and take the course directly to the State House, she said in response to those alleged attacks. This is a good moment for West Virginia and a good moment for the country. Jake Zackerman, and Quinn are he's the education reporter. He's the political reporter here. And a side note to that, somewhere here, a bunch of pizzas of all things were delivered to the striking teachers. We applaud that effort there. Fundraiser paid for hundreds of pizzas to feed the teachers. That is a good idea. Hanson's Pizzas is 700 pizzas to the state capitol in those for those striking on a Tuesday and Wednesday. I would imagine they needed those. Our goal was to buy pizzas for the strikers throughout the week and beyond if necessary. That is a post from the president of United Educators of San Francisco. So in other words, the United situation there, the campaign easily surpassed its initial $10,000 goal to pay for the 3 deliveries that would feed approximately 3,000 workers. A few hours after helping deliver the 350 to the Capitol, Hanson's Pizza's owner, Nick Hudson, I think, said he would the largest order in the history of his company, no doubt about that. A striking teacher from Charleston just texted, we are signing the agreement there. That's Max Gaylord. Out of Nashville, Tennessee, we're catching up on some things here. The mayor down there, Megan Barry, has resigned. Her bodyguard, so to speak, also, they had an affair, evidently pled guilty there. We'll have more of this story later in the ball game there. And everything from alleged nude pictures on down. We'll cover this when we have more time to cover it. But on we go to the Lone Star State of Texas. We'll start out in El Paso, Texas. Lion Ted Cruz is up for re-election there. His opponent is a man named Beto O'Rourke. He's out of El Paso. He's a local congressman there in El Paso, Texas. This is Dateline Austin, Texas, and this is from the El Paso Times. We don't go to it much, but we are going to it today. They both had easy victories, setting the stage for the general election in November. Cruz had the luxury of running as a Republican in one of the most Republican states in the nation, but during the primary of a lesser-known O'Rourke, being a Congress type out of El Paso, known in that area, but El Paso is on the other side of Texas, a huge state in itself. The embraced a go everywhere, speak to everyone strategy. O'Rourke has been pretty successful raising money. He's drawn good crowds. That you have to do. And here, Robert O'Rourke, a political science professor at the University of Dallas, but it's still a Republican state, and he's running against an incumbent, no doubt about that. And we'll have more on this as it develops. He could win, but only if Cruz makes mistakes. Well, Lion Ted Cruz has made a lot of mistakes. He just needs to, Mr. O'Rourke, is study the playbook of one DJ Trump. O'Rourke, an upstart but energetic candidate, hopes to capitalize on his growing star power and catch the blue wave that his party is banking on across the state. Cruz in his bid to win a second 6-year term, and that is very important there. He has access to millions of dollars from super PAC money and the backing of DJ Trump, the Republican establishment. I guess DJ Trump's taken the Lion Ted off of his marker. While those advantages have allowed Trump to run something of a Rose Garden campaign, political observers predict he will begin flexing his fundraising methods to limit O'Rourke's ability to make a serious progress. O'Rourke has been had a pretty easy time so far, but it's going to change starting Monday. That is from Matt Makawa, a Republican operative there in Texas. Cruz has made most direct attack on O'Rourke before the polls closed in Texas. He came out swinging even to paint O'Rourke as out of touch with Texas voters and tied him to left-wing liberals in his party, including Mr. Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. You've seen these Nancy Pelosi ads, incidentally, in many states. You'd think that Nancy Pelosi was running in those states, and she wasn't. Congressman O'Rourke is a left-wing liberal Democrat. He knows to wing left-wing. He's running a moderate campaign, O'Rourke, that is. He's running like Bernie Sanders across the state, and the voters of Texas will have a decision of what policies and values reflect their own values. O'Rourke rejected Cruz's assertion that he didn't share the same values as Texas voters, pointing to his campaign's extensive travel across the state. Does this guy who spent the last 13 months traveling to 230 counties in Texas, holding town meetings, listening to people, know about what the people of Texas think, O'Rourke said, or as a guy who ran for president for 4 years, literally left the state of Texas to visit 99 counties of Iowa instead of being in Texas, no doubt about it. Lion Ted was a lightning bolt, but he didn't exactly strike pay dirt, as they say. O'Rourke entered the race with little name recognition outside of El Paso, which he's represented in the Congress since 2013. He previously served on the El Paso City Council. When he announced his intention to challenge Cruz, he was seen not only as an underdog, but an underdog who was unknown beyond El Paso. O'Rourke's fundraising powers and unconventional campaign style had pushed him in the national spotlight here. And for Texas Democrats, who've ridden a 2-decade, 20-year losing streak, is a premier candidate, no doubt about that. Mr. O'Rourke, Beto is a leader, said Ed Espanol, executive director of the left-leaning Progress Texas. The Republican operative there, McAwalk, I suppose, said despite the Democrat enthusiasm, the better known and likely better funded Cruz heads into the general election as the favorite, no doubt about that. Since O'Rourke entered the race about a year ago, he said the challenger has benefited from the most favorable media attention. So far, O'Rourke has been campaigning to increase his name recognition. Very smart to do there. O'Rourke's campaign captured a 24-hour live stream with Austin gathering of funds. O'Rourke has visited 230 of the, this is a hellacious amount of counties, of 254 counties in Texas since March, hosting crowds, engaging them, big theaters, small communities. He's been everywhere. So Mr. Beto O'Rourke is known to everyone. February invited O'Rourke to Falls to meet my mom, while in August they featured the campaign the congressman getting his hair cut at a barber shop on the road. So in other words, he is touching base with the people. Jennifer Duffy, she is from the Cook Report, Charlie Cook, the premier handicapper. Sees larger than expected excitement for O'Rourke among political insiders. O'Rourke's fundraising numbers are nothing short of impressive, she says. Now, he's also not, Mr. O'Rourke's not taking a PAC money. He's pledged not to accept money from political action committees. There's always a double side to that situation. You limit yourself in the funds that you can actually get. But again, Cruz is millions of dollars ahead. by accepting small donations like Bernie Sanders. He can do that, and of course those donations come in nationwide. Texas is not a cheap date, Duffy says, noting that campaign cash goes much faster in states, states like West Virginia. There's not much going on there, and Missouri, especially in the hills of Missouri and the hollers of West Virginia. Last time a Democrat had resources to effectively compete, that was the former mayor there, Mr. Kirk. He was Ron Kirk of Dallas. He was in G.W. Bush's administration. He lost to John Cornyn by 12 points. So Crystal Perkins, executive director of the Texas Democratic Party, said the party has strong down-ballot candidates. That's the grassroots. You need that. You need those to go out there. You have to have people on the local scene out. We don't have to bake the cake. They just come in and put the icing on the cake. Anyway, Perkins said that O'Rourke needs to stay the course because Cruz will rank up, will no doubt speed up his fundraisers. On Tuesday, he criticized O'Rourke for celebrating a low rating he received from the National Rifles Association. And he said his stance on immigration doesn't mirror that of Texas. Well, Texas itself is a very interesting state, very large Latino population in Texas, and the links between, in terms of business interests, when you get down to San Antonio and those places, the border communities there, they're interwound with Mexico. Wheelchair Abbott, the governor, he's married to a Latino, and there's a situation in Texas also with the Latinos, more conservative Latinos, when you find on the east and west coast. So some of those Latinos are embedded in the Republican Party. Anyway, we'll move on here. Veronica Escobar takes the nomination for Congress. She defeats Dory Finnbach. Anyway, I assume she is a former judge there in El Paso County. The nomination for the 16th Congressional District seat, I assume, to become Texas' first Latin in wait a minute, hold on. Latin in Congress. Sure. Not certain what, even before the election of ballots, Escobar had received more than 60% of the vote. Not really certain what that means. I want to thank El Paso. We won't go into all that. Escobar will now face a Republican, Rick Seeberger, in the general election. The winner will replace Beto O'Rourke as Miss Escobar, Escobar 46. Announced her candidacy when is it? August. One of the first projects will be create a Office of Border Economics. That is there. The other candidate was president of the board. So this is Ms. Escobar, a former county judge who is running here. Now, I'm not sure about this first Latin because we've had a lot of Latinos in Congress going back to maybe she's from somewhere else. Anyway, not certain about what that means. We'll get into it. Who won, who lost in Tarrant County? This is a Star Telegram out of Fort Worth, Texas, the rest of Texas, but now you hopefully went to the polls. The official numbers are in, and I guess that's all they had to say. Bernie Sanders, incidentally, is heading back to Texas. This is by Tinsley and Tinsley, Star Telegram here on the 6th. He's skipping Tarrant County this time around, but he will be making stops this weekend, as is in Austin, San Antonio, and Lubbock, Texas before heading to Phoenix, Arizona. I've done that before. Traveled through Lubbock and, of course, on to El Paso and then on to Phoenix. But anyway, a little bit different situation here. He will participate in the South by Southwest conversation with CNN's Jake Tapper. That'll be at the Austin Convention Center. He will appear at a rally in San Antonio, Texas, at the Trinity University. Laurie, that'll be, I should announce when this. It'll be at 12:30 in Austin and at 7:30 in San Antonio. Participate in a rally at the Lubbock Convention Center at 1 o'clock on Saturday, and on Sunday he heads to Phoenix for noon. A rally. For information, call 212-90. Let me do this again. 212-920-4131. Has held rallies at the Verizon Theater in Grand Prairie, Texas, on the 20th. Now that is an All-African University there, who joins Democratic leaders on multiple multi-state come together and fight back tour. Told Texans if they aren't happy how the government is being run, they should do something about it. Texas, you're ready for political revolution. Anyway, this is nice that they put this in. And again, this is from the Star Telegram. The Trump effect was clearly in play in the Tuesday primary in North Texas. Republicans focused on maintaining the red state of Tarrant County. Democrats, meanwhile, were determined to change the landscape. And while this was going, this is a March primary, remember that. The DJ Trump effect was certainly in play. Tricia Nelly, 33, said she marked the first time to vote in the primary. Asked what the answer, she said Trump. So no doubt, old Trump was at. A revolution is coming. The New Life Fellowship Church in South Arlington, Democrat voters were already trying to send a message by 11:30. 59 people had voted in the Democratic primary, while 33 in the Republican primary. This Cruz O'Rourke faces challenges here. O'Rourke appealed to 70-year-old Elsa Varara, who voted in Fort Worth. So this is an interview with some people, as you'll have it. And somebody named Gomez voted for my Ted Cruz. So much for that one. And we move on to Dallas here. The Dallas Morning News. O'Rourke, a three-term congressperson, hopes to snap a 25-year losing streak. Basic kitchen table as a living wage, jobs, education, and healthcare. You define any of these of the political sphere. Both cleared the primary with little resistance. Cruz was framing the race as a bid to bring Bernie Sanders into the race. I don't think that'll work very well there. The Republicans haven't lost a statewide race since 1994. President DJ Trump looms large, even in Texas there. Again, back to Jennifer Duffy. Don't say it's a slam dunk for Cruz. The Cook Report is like a Republican. CNN recently downgraded from a solid Republican. So the Republicans hold a 51-49 majority in the Senate, and of the 26 seats, Democrats are defending 10 and are in the states that Trump won. So it's conceivable to me that Cruz loses in the fall. That's from Rob Jetmer, the former executive director of the Republican of the party's Senate campaign arm, the National Republican Senatorial Committee. No doubt. Cruz is amongst the most conservative members of the Senate, and his take-no-hold-bar thing. In other words, his colleagues in the Senate hate him. There's largely agreed upon support for free trade and NAFTA, but diverses on Obamacare, immigration policy, border security, and taxes. Tosses a top grade for the NRA to Beto O'Rourke for earning an F over his support for restriction of high-capacity ammo. As far as the money, O'Rourke has raised $8.7 million, very impressive there, topping Cruz the first week of 2018 alone. Cruz raised $2.3 million to $800 million, according to a strategist here, Brendan Steinhauser, who ran John Cornyn's 2014 race, said it will take at least $10 million to run any semblance of a statewide campaign against Cruz, preferably $25 million. Well, we got a long ways to go. And he says he makes him disavowing of PAC money a big mistake. Cruz enters the race with $6 million in his war chest, and anything he wants he can get. He has barnstormed Texas for months, no doubt about that, Mr. O'Rourke. He needs to get out there because everybody knows who Lion Ted Cruz is. Gabrito, Nanzer, chairman of the Nohoser. Anyway, get him right in a minute here. He's of the Democratic Party in Texas, said every vote that even voters who don't usually support Democrats are sick and tired of the way Republicans have turned a blind eye to Trump's incompetence and corruption. Well, that'd be interesting if they can make it a situation there. Another race won't spend Lupe Valdez and Andrew White. Andrew White is the son of the late Governor White of Texas. Valdez polled big numbers in Dallas, her adopted town. She's out of San Antonio. Of course, she is a Latino. Abbott is the prohibitive favorite, although Democrats this year point to a few bright spots, even in Texas, as noted from a professor at the Southern Methodist University, Matthew Wilson. Eventually, Democratic nominees might benefit from tailwinds created by Trump's sagging poll numbers. Another potential aid to Valdez or White could lie in the fine print on the ballot. The Republican legislature passed, Wilson said. Midterms are always dicey. Their lawmakers decided to abolish straight ticket voting, but that won't be until 2020 when the president runs for re-election. Straight ticket voting could be important if Democrats turn out strong this fall, he said. And that's is the reason for that. Abbott has a decent job rating. That's from a clinical professor of state and local government at the University of Texas, Lyndon B. Johnson School of Public Affairs. Is he popular everywhere? No, she says. But he's generally popular. Top-tier Democrats, as former housing Julian Castro decided to skip the contest, Greenberg says. You got a lot of Democrats jumping in Iowa open seats are looking at what Beto O'Rourke is doing, she said, the El Paso Congress type. Identity politics, we got some bit going on here. Valdez must consider the favorite over White. Valdez is well-polished, given the nature of what the Democratic Party has become. We've heard really outreach to the Latino community. And I guess that Latin they're talking about, she must be a Spaniard, Escobar. Okay, I suppose that's only in Texas. Anyway, Abbott can afford to play it safe and wait and see if Valdez and White's battle there. Well, Greenberg, a former UT's former member of the Texas House from Travis County, said Abbott might decide he can afford to deny Valdez or White a chance to debate him this fall. That's a typical Rose Garden thing. He's got $11 million already and spent nearly $12.9 million. Has raised that much. As of last month, Abbott had $41 million in the bank. So Wheelchair Abbott is wheeling along, self-powered there, as they say. So the debate here out of the Dallas Morning News. This is from Grover Jeffries Jr. He's a political writer and African American. Nonetheless, Texas Democrats and Republicans picked their nominees on Tuesday. No doubt about that. This year, the enthusiasm amongst a high number of voters have a rare opportunity to make gains in Texas. They want to at least keep this thing close. As our good friend Paul Laxaw says that in some disappointing runs there, I can remember a few in Texas that didn't quite come around there, but getting a little closer each time. In Dallas, Judge Clay Jenkins, you remember him. Enthusiasm is off the charts, he said, who was unopposed in his primary re-election. He was instrumental in the flooding and various other things that happened in Dallas County. We covered him. I don't remember the whole story right now. More voters participate in the 2018 primary than in 2014. Early voting shows Republicans point out that many of those voters were not new to the process. Well, you want them to be new to the process. The Democrats realize that much of the increased participation in their primaries involve voters trying to send a message to DJ Trump. Also point out a surge in Democratic primaries. Voters don't represent new voters, but voters new to the process. Well, a Democratic primary in Texas is not necessarily a big thing. Contests for races were headed to runoff in northeastern Dallas County. That's a congressional district 32. A lawyer and former NFL player, Colin Allred, will be on the ballot on the 22nd of May. A runoff with former Agriculture Department Undersecretary Lillian Starino. It's good to always get some NFL person involved here. If the election were held today, Pete Sessions would be history. Some Democrats hope to add up to 20,000 voters over how the party performed there. They need every voter they can get. There's always been a situation there. This election is deciding between Pelosi and the $1 trillion spending increase there, single payer, etc. Sessions didn't appear worried about his Democratic rival. So some Republican targets here, Rodney Anderson of Grand Prairie, Texas. Won't go into most of these because nobody's heard of him outside of probably Texas. Is this really a blue wave? Well, according to Sheree, I guess that's how you pronounce that, the Dallas party leader said Republicans would not only protect their turf, but would mount a challenge to the incumbent Victoria in North Dallas House District 107. Nuveen, I suppose you pronounce that. We're going to protect our incumbents. Abbott has $43,000 he got from big business. The Jenkins said Abbott can't protect Republicans from drowning in places like North Texas. Probably can't. Wheelchair Abbott has limited things going on. And let me just throw this story in here. The Amazon people have been to Dallas more than once, or shortly after. They visited all 20 metro areas, looking at a headquarters there. They received 238 proposals. Most of them went out the window, down to 20 finalists. Washington Post wrote it. Virginia Governor Northam said he'd breakfast with Amazon officials, and Muriel Bowser also with Amazon officials. Of course, they are located in Washington, D.C. with the Washington Post as a wealth of options that fit both bills. No doubt about it. And also, we have a situation going on here. Socially conservative politics at state level includes a narrow mix of legislation that would restrict transgender people. And Mr. Bezos would not be too happy about that. The Regional Chamber of Commerce. And there's also out of New Jersey and those places, Richard Floyd, an urbanist, prominent, started asking elected officials and community leaders to sign a non-aggression pact in the use of tax giveaways and local incentives, and that's in New Jersey and Maryland. Want to basically give away everything. We head on to Austin, Texas. A primary there in Austin, Texas, and basically Jose Tito Valla and Shirley Cole are head-to-head, and they run into a May primary. Cole received 38% of the vote. Vida, VLA, 39%, one vote there between them. And Dewana Dunkins, who represented the thing for 24 years, got 10% of the vote, but she didn't campaign very much at all. It's just, this is the Washington Statesman. They call the race, no doubt, for Mr. O'Rourke and Line Ted Cruz. The latest, Democrats hit the highest midterm turnout since 2002. It's a long time away there. Democratic turnout in Texas primary is highest level. There, at least 700,000 people voted in the Democratic primary. For U.S. Senate, won Tuesday by Beto O'Rourke. That surpassed the three last midterms. Over 1 million people voted in 2002, that's 16 years ago. Democrats haven't won a statewide race since 2002, which tells you a little bit about it. O'Rourke had recently outraised Ted Lyon Cruz there, and they just... George P. Bush, otherwise known as P, is still on the Land Commission. They're still grooming him. Oh, he's 41 years old. Okay. Anyway, the first Latino Hispanic sheriff in Texas headed to a Democratic runoff against the son of a former governor. That is White, Lupe Valdez there, and Houston investor Andrew White. This is just basically a recap of the race. We won't get into that. Where they closed, they've all closed. No doubt about that. We were looking at some results here. Lupe Valdez, this is in the governor's race. She had 43% of the vote, 436,000. White, 27% of the vote. There would be a runout. Excuse me. Over 1 million votes were cast. Grady Yarborough, 54,000 votes at 8%. And it falls down. Old wheelchair Abbott got 90% of the vote, 1,390,191. So the Republicans got effectively 1.5 million votes out there in their primary on the governor's thing. And this crazy character Patrick got 1 million votes there. And we won't go into the others. Anyway, that is Texas primary 2008. Let's do the sports. Or we'll attempt to do the sports at least. We will. Hopefully we haven't had a major catastrophe. We have not. All right. NFL coverage, I'm not sure where we're going to be this year on this. We're just looking at some of the quarterbacks lining up here. Washington's Kim Cousins is number one. He's age of 30. Drew Brees, who is 39, is number two. This is free agent types. And number three is Casey Keenum. He is a Minnesota quarterback. He's 30 years old. And the rest of them are, as we say, position players. Let's get to college basketball first. BYU and number 6, Gonzaga. Gonzaga 74-54. And we'll roll right on here. We'll get to the NBA. The 76ers were at the Hornets. 76ers won 28-114. The Hawks at the Raptors. Raptors 106-90 for the Hawks. Yeah. And in overtime, the Heat and Wizards. 117 for the Wizards, 113 for the Heat. The Rockets and Thunder in OKC. Rockets won 22-112. The Nuggets and Mavericks in Dallas. It was Mavericks 118-101. The Knickerbockers and Trailblazers out in Oregon. 111 for the Trailblazers, 87 for the Knicks. The Nets and Warriors in California, 114 for the Warriors, 101 for the Nets. And finally, the Pelicans and Clippers in Los Angeles. Pelicans pull that out 21-16. On to Major League Baseball, and then we're back into the National Hockey League. The Yankees and the Tigers. Yankees 7-2. The Orioles and Twins. Twins 9-8. The Astros and Nationals. It was all Nationals 10-5. It was all Astros 10-5. The Astros had 12 hits, no errors, and the Nationals 11 hits and no errors. The Cardinals and Marlins 4-4 tie there. The Red Sox and Rays. It was all Red Sox 9-1 over the Rays. Atlanta and the Blue Jays. 5-1 Atlanta over the Blue Jays. The Astros and Mets. Mets 9-5 there. The Brewers and White Sox. White Sox 6-4. Rangers and Athletics. Athletics 5-3. They remember this is spring training. Cleveland and the Reds. Cross-state rivalry there, but they were in spring training. 7-6 was the score. Reds. The Angels and D-backs. D-backs 5-4. The Padres and Royals of Kansas City. Padres 5-4 there. And the Rockies and Mariners. No Cubs this time around. Anyway, nonetheless, the Rockies 3-2 over the Seattle Mariners. Now let's go to the hockey season. NHL hockey. We had the Red Wings at the Bruins. Bruins 6-5. Canadians and Devils. Devils 6-4 in Detroit, New Jersey. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, the Jets and Rangers. The Jets shut out the Rangers. The Golden Knights of Vegas and the Blue Jackets. Blue Jackets 4-1. The Blue Jackets of Columbus, Ohio. The Panthers and Lightning. Panthers Lightning 4-5 in overtime. The Stars and Predators. Stars were shut out by the Predators of Nashville. I guess the mayor is watching now, but she resigned. The Hurricane and Wild 6-2 in that contest. The Avalanche and Blackhawks of Chicago. Blackhawks 2-1 over the Colorado Avalanche. And the Capitals and the Ducks. The Ducks shut out the Capitals of Washington and the Ducks of Anaheim 4-0. And a note here about a very famous high school. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas hockey team are the best players in the world of the week. A nice picture of them on our marquee, the best players in the world of the week. There's a play. Anyway, yeah. They state champions in Florida several days after they experienced a horrific tragedy at the school. That was the murders there at the school. So, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas hockey team are the best players. Hockey team in Florida, very interesting there. This will do it for us. the Texas 2018 primary. We covered it from El Paso to Austin, Texas, and points in between Dallas and Fort Worth. We didn't go down to San Antonio this time around, but we shall. Good day.